7 things to do in the morning to stop living the same shit. Stoicism. Waking up is not just opening your eyes, it is crossing an invisible border between what was and what can still be. But for many, this crossing already begins with tiredness. It's as if every morning is a repetition of the same worn-out script. Getting up, moving, completing tasks, feeling that nothing really changes. It's not laziness. It's the feeling of being trapped in a cycle where the days are different only on the calendar, but not in the heart. Seneca said that the sailor who does not know his course cannot expect a favorable wind. And this is exactly how we live when we wake up without an internal act. Any event, good or bad, sweeps us away. We are loose boat, following currents that we did not choose. Waking up then ceases to be an act of beginning again, and becomes just a continuation. Same sea, the same horizon, the same absence of direct. Marcus Aurelius, in Silence, reminded us that each morning is like an entire life, that upon waking, we have the chance to live something new, not just another repeated page, but for that, presence is needed. Waking up on autopilot is running through the door of the day, carrying the weight of yesterday, and already anticipating the shadows of tomorrow. It is not noticing the breeze, not noticing the light, not listening to your own body. The morning is a symbolic door. If you go through it carelessly, you bring all the chaos left over from the night before inside. But if you go through it consciously, it's like cleaning the lens before looking at the world. It is seeing more clearly, feeling with more clarity, breathing with more space. This cleaning is not a luxury. It is self-control. It is the act of saying, today I will decide the tone before the day decides for me. Think of the difference between opening a window and letting the air in by chance, or opening it with intention, feeling the wind touch your face. The first is passive. The second is a choice. The morning, when lived with purpose, is that second window. It is the instant when you can, even before the first step, decide whether the day will be just another one, or if, even if small, it will have something new, something alive, something of your own, the weight you pick up before you even get out of bed. There are days when the body wakes up, but the mind is already overloaded even before the first movement. It's as if the instant consciousness returns, you already find yourself carrying invisible bag, worries that haven't happened yet, conversations that haven't started, fears that were only born in anticipation. This morning burden is not a fruit of the present, but of the tendency to live the day as if it were an extension of the accumulated pains and pressure. Stoicism reminds us that the first task of the day is to separate what is real from what is just anticipated noise. Seneca would say that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, and never has this been as visible as on mornings when we wake up already exhausted. In these moments, it is not the day that weighs on, but the projection of. We create storms before feeling the first breeze. The mind, still fragile upon waking, is fertile ground for these seeds of anxiety. A phrase read by chance, a thought that arises uninvited, and we are already involved in scenarios that may never exist. It's as if the still dark room were being invaded by shadows that do not belong in it. When we carry this weight before we even get out of bed, we give the day an unfair advantage. It starts winning. Marcus Aurelius saw the beginning of the morning as a time to align the compass, to bring the mind back to oneself before the world had a chance to mold it. By not doing this, we run the risk of waking up already living in the territory of fear and anticipation, instead of inhabiting the present we have in our hand. It is a silent way, spending energy on what does not yet exist while ignoring what is already here, pulsing and asking for attention. The difference between a day that drags on and a day with purpose begins in that invisible instant, the moment we choose whether to pick up weight or clarity upon waking. It is at this point that we define whether we will be passengers of worries or navigators of what we can actually lead. The autopilot trap. There are entire mornings that pass without us realizing we have been awake. We get up, perform tasks, respond to demand, and when we realize it, half the day is gone without us having been truly present. It's like crossing a road looking only at the asphalt under our feet without ever lifting our eyes to the horizon. This is autopilot, a state in which life moves but is not lived. The danger of this mode of existence is that it seems efficient. We fulfill commitments, follow routine, routine, maintain the appearance of functionality, but inside there is a gradual emptying. When consciousness does not participate in the first hours of the day, everything that follows tends to repeat old patterns, even those that no longer make sense. It's like reusing yesterday's murky water to water what should be born anew today. Marcus Aurelius saw the need to bring the mind back to oneself as a daily duty, especially before facing the world. For him, this morning recollection was not a luxury, but a protection against dispersion. By starting the day already taken over by external voices, messages, notifications, news, we hand over control of our route to winds we did not choose, and thus we become passengers on our own vessel. The autopilot trap lies precisely in its subtlety. It doesn't warn us when it begins. It settles in the habit of doing without feeling, of responding without thinking, of starting without really starting. And when we get used to living this way, the idea of presence begins to seem distant, almost impossible. But the truth is that presence doesn't need hours to be recovered. It fits in an instant, as long as the instant is conscious. Being awake is not just having your eyes open. It is noticing the smell of coffee, the sound that comes in through the window, the texture of the morning air. It is noticing that we are here before the world takes us somewhere else, because if we are not at the helm at dawn, the rest of the day will be driven by currents that do not ask if we want to go. The minimal ritual that changes the course. It is not always necessary to turn the morning into a long sequence of practices for it to take a new direction. Often, a single gesture, repeated with intention, is enough to prevent the day from being swallowed by unconscious repetition. This gesture does not have to be grandiose. It just needs to be an anchor point, something that brings us back to our act before the world imposes its own. It could be the quietness of a few minutes, looking at a fixed point, feeling your breath slow down. It could be the physical movement of stretching your body, like someone removing the rust from a gear that has been still all night. It could be writing 3 lines in a notebook, without worrying about making sense, just to give a voice to what is trapped. The format matters less than the meaning. It is the silent reminder that we still have a choice about how the day will begin. In Stoicism, self-control is not rigidity, but constant adjustment. It's like the sailor who, even on a calm sea, watches the sails and the rudder, correcting small deviations before they become irreversible. This minimal ritual serves the same function, to keep us alert so that we are not carried away by the external flow without notice. The more consistent it becomes, the faster we recognize when we are starting to move away from what really matters. There is also a symbolic aspect to this act. It's as if we are saying to our own body and mind, we are here, we are starting. There is no urgency, there is no demand for perfection, just a conscious beginning, which puts order in the place where chaos could enter without asking permission. And, however small it may seem, this beginning changes everything, because one step in the right direction, taken early, changes the entire path. When we find this daily anchor point, it ceases to be just a habit and becomes a silent pact with ourselves. A pact not to allow the morning to be just a continuation of yesterday, but a real opening to something that can still be born. The metaphor of the full cup early in the morning. Starting the day with a mind already overflowing is like trying to walk while balancing a container filled to the brim. Any touch, any minimal movement, and the liquid spills. When we wake up carrying anxiety, haste, or accumulated worries, any detail can turn into a disproportionate storm. A minimal delay, a cross message, a small inconvenience, everything is amplified because there's no internal space to absorb anything new. Stoicism teaches us that to receive what the day brings, we must first create space. Seneca reminded us that it is not possible to add wine to a container that is already full of dirty water. You must empty it first. The morning can be this moment of emotional emptying, a time to let go of what was left from yesterday before receiving the demands and stimuli of today. It is not an escape. It is preparation. To empty does not mean to nullify feelings or to pretend that problems do not exist. It means giving them the right side. It is to recognize that not everything needs to be resolved now, that not every emotion requires an immediate response. This act of reorganizing what we carry first thing in the morning is like cleaning the deck of a ship before setting sail. It prevents the journey from starting with obstacles that could have been removed while still in port. When we don't do this, the day becomes reactive. Each new drop falls into an already full cup, and the constant overflowing becomes inevitable. But when we start with clarity and internal space, we have room to receive the unexpected without falling apart. And this room is what allows us to respond instead of just reacting. The morning then ceases to be a narrow corridor through which we are pushed and becomes an open square where we choose where to go. And this choice, silent and almost invisible, changes not only the next few hours, but the way we live the days that are yet to come. Starting the day is more than opening your eyes and moving your body. It is an act of direction. Seneca compared the experienced sailor to the one who adjusts the sails every morning, not to control the wind, but to ensure that he will not be swept away by others' tide. It is in this image that the morning finds its true value, the instant when, before leaving, we set the course. Marcus Aurelius saw waking up as a silent reminder that life is whole before us as long as there is light in our eye. It doesn't matter if the previous night was agitated or calm, if the past days brought victories or wear and tear. The dawn is always the chance for an internal new beginning, and this new beginning does not depend on changing everything at once, but on changing the way we cross the threshold of the day. When we understand that the beginning shapes the path, every morning gesture takes on weight, a slower breath, a clear thought, a small silence before opening the doors to the world. All of this builds an invisible foundation that supports the rest of the hour, because a day that begins on its axis has a better chance of staying there, even when the winds change. Think of the morning as a gate that opens. If we cross it distracted, we carry the leftovers of yesterday with us and let ourselves be shaped by whatever comes. But if we cross it conscious, we carry only what is necessary, and what was once automatic routine becomes a deliberate choice. It is in this instant that we cease to be passengers of the day and become its navigator. In the end, perhaps the real change is not in transforming one's whole life at once, but in transforming the way we start each day. Because it is in that first step that we silently choose whether we are going to live another repeated chapter or write something new.